Phil, it's welcome to you and everyone else to another episode of Half Baked, the podcast where two Northerners argue about a contentious / non-contentious subject, which we're going to find out about in a minute. But not before I've said, Phil, how are you? Where are you? What the flip are you wearing?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Alistair. I'm, as usual, wearing Hugo Boss. But actually, also, it occurs to me I'm also wearing a fine layer of body fat. I was measuring my body fat the other day, and I saw that I'm 25% body fat, which sounds like quite a lot. But actually, it's the ideal body fat for a woman of my age. So there you go. But yeah, back here ensconced in sunny California, in Silicon Valley. I had a few weeks in Europe. That was very pleasant. But back and ready to go.
Couple of things. Ensconced or ensconced? Ensconced, I think. But also, what did you? A thin layer, 25%. That's, if you're like 40 centimeters across, that's 15 centimeters approximately of fat. That's not a thin layer by anyone.
Yeah, no, it isn't, is it? I was stretching the truth there. I have to take this off. Anyway, but I'm gonna respond to your question by saying, Alistair, how are you? Where are you? And what are you wearing?
Okay, I'm pretty good. It's Friday night where I am, which is excellent. And where I am is in that Yorkshire, in that England, near that London. Feeling pretty good. Wearing John Smedley again. I know this isn't very Smedley-esque, but I love it. What can I say? It's 26 degrees, so it's summertime in the UK. Everyone's happy, and that's. I'm so keen to get into today's topic that I'm not going to ramble on any more than I usually do, because today's topic is all about swearing.
Fuck.
I know. So perhaps there should be some kind of disclaimer here that there's probably going to be a few, naughty words dropped during the course of the next 20 minutes or so in this episode of Half Baked. My half-baked idea, right, is that swearing should be no longer considered as swearing. It's been with us for too long. Swear words are kind of an excuse for people just to get offended. I just think that we need to move on from that. We need to kind of move swearing into the mainstream, all get over ourselves. And you know what? That might allow us to be offended by the real things that there are in the world to be offended by. So it's one of those let's just get over ourselves moments. So that's kind of framing today's half-baked idea, to just throw a few things in there and liven things up a bit. So swearing's been around for ages, right? But so I think, and I'm hesitating here because I don't know whether to say it or not, but there's one swear word which is still kind of causes people to step back a little bit. The C-bomb, or cunt, as it's known. And I recently watched a film called Last Tango in Paris, which was made in 1972, and which stars Marlon Brando. And they use the C word in that film. And that's kind of what led to this episode. It's like, if that word has been in films since 1972, which by my reckoning is over 50 years ago, and is now in loads of TV and in loads of films, it no longer has the heft that it once had. I appreciate in some circles that are wrong. It probably still does. And that kind of made me think that all swear words should be mainstreamed, they should be decriminalised, for want of a better word, and we should just crack on about it. So there's a thought. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to throw a couple of other things out there, Phil, before I ask you to come back on any of this nonsense. The C word was referenced in Shakespeare, which was years ago, a long time ago, in maybe Hamlet, I think, when Hamlet was going a little bit nut, He referred to country matters, which is a popular pun on the first syllable. So it's like if Hamlet was using it, if Shakespeare was using it 450 years ago or whatever, we really need to get over ourselves with it. It's like it's just completely passé. That's another thought that I had about it. And I also think that a lot of swearing refers to sex and parts of your body and the act of having sex. And I just think, like, really? Can we not? Why is stuff like that still taboo? What, can we not just grow up a little bit and call things for what they are? I think there are probably more swear words that allude to the female sex organs than there are to the male sex organs. So if we kind of rationalize them all and bring them all in from the margins and bring them into everyday vocabulary without, like, them being offensive, then fewer people are going to be offended. That's going to help everyone out. There's just a few things I'm throwing out there just to get things going. What the flip do you think of that, Phil?
Wow, you've covered so many different topics there, and I've got so many things to say, Alistair. It's very difficult to figure out where to start. It does occur to me that the C-bomb, as you refer to it, in some parts of the UK, it's by people of our age group, it's seen as kind of a funny word and not offensive at all. Okay, slightly. I probably wouldn't say it to my grandma. Having said that, my grandma's been dead for over 50 years, so she wouldn't be offended, would she? But yeah, it's an odd one. I do notice also you use the phrase naughty right at the beginning about naughty words. That's also kind of suggests that this is all to do with children and protecting children and they shouldn't be saying these words. But yeah, these words are all over the place on the TV, in movies, in social situations, and in some ways they've lost their impact. Although I do notice that I do use them myself to show emphasis when I'm particularly annoyed with my children. Now, my children aren't 4, 5, 10, whatever. They're relatively grown up these days. And actually, I'm not convinced that using swear words for emphasis actually does anything at all, apart from make me look foolish. But because I've clearly lost my cool. But yeah, yeah, I think you're right on that. But the other thing that occurs to me, people getting offended. It's about time people got a grip on what they offended now. Now, yesterday, I was offended by something that happened. I was looking at Facebook and it decided to serve me up an advert that showed an erect penis. Several erect penises, actually. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen many erect penises in my time, and sometimes by choice. But just in the middle of the day when I'm in the middle of doing something, I said, I'll just check my Facebook feed, and it present that to me on the screen. I could have been in a meeting at work or something like that. I mean, that would be terrible. I mean, I think that is worthwhile being offended about, and actually, I don't want to see that, and I don't see why they're servicing up ads like that in the middle of the day. It wasn't advertising penises; it was advertising extending your penis, which maybe that's a good thing, but I don't really believe it will work. Otherwise, I might purchase such. Yeah, but it's just not right. So that is worthwhile getting offended about, and I think we should actually do something about it. Maybe not. Yeah, I think maybe Half Baked should do something about it. But yeah, getting offended about words here and there. Words are just words. They're just words. What somebody says and what they believe can be completely different. I often say things that I don't actually believe, and just because I say some words doesn't mean it doesn't really mean anything. I think.
Not much that comes out of your mouth means anything. Fail. Couple of things to pick you up on there. Being offended is a choice. I only realised this recently because I was thinking about, I was tackled about some things that I've said, and I looked into freedom of speech and all this sort of stuff, and it reminded me that you have a cognitive choice to make as to whether you're going to be offended by something or not. And I think if we break that cognitive link and think, actually, there are words here that have really offended me. It's just a word. I don't need to be offended by it. You get rid of that, all of a sudden, the offence is gone, isn't it? So I think being offended is a choice. I think there's something else. So what you said there was really interesting. You said that often using a swear word is about losing your temper, and if you lose your temper, or you've raised your voice, or you've allowed your heart rate to get up, and you've lost control of the situation, chances are you're going to lose the argument. It's not about the swear word; it's about the emotion that's behind it. And what I was thinking when you were saying that is the way that people replace swear words with non-swear words. I've never understood that, but it's nuts, isn't it? So my dad,
you did it yourself earlier, Alice. You used the word C-bomb.
Yeah, and I've deliberately used the word flip. And it's like, so my dad, bless him, who I love very much, was just an artist at it. A kind of fight, like drat. Or, he would say all the time, he would say flipping, but not, until that became part of our language in the late 1970s because of Grange Hill.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting because my mother, I remember very vividly, I must have been something like 14 years old, and I was on a caravan holiday with my parents in the north of England. And at one point after breakfast, my mother, I forget what the situation was, my mother exclaimed, "Oh, bollocks." And me and my dad, and she didn't swear at all, my mother, so this was very unusual. And I looked at my dad, and we both looked at each other, and I said, "Mum, why are you saying that?" And she said, "Well, it's better than saying balls." And then just had to explain to her that no, that's completely the wrong way around. But she was so not used to the vernacular, she got it completely the wrong way around.
So I love that. I love it when swearing goes wrong. Do you remember when Kim Il-jung called President Trump a dotard? Brilliant. It's like, we kind of know what he was trying to do and trying to say, but he made up a word and it got out there. It's just fantastic. So swearing going wrong is hilarious. And maybe, you know what, maybe if we do take away the offence around swearing, things like that won't be funny anymore. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, similarly, I remember, before my dad died, my mum used to read him the subtitles from subtitled programs that they used to watch together, and invariably there'd be a swear word in the subtitle. And I remember watching an episode of Borgen, and the words for that particular scene came on the screen, and I could see that the last word that came on the screen was bollocks. And so I'm kind of, my mum's reading through the line, right? And it's getting closer and closer. I'm like, what's going to happen? It's like 2 words before, and it comes to the word, and she just comes out with, and that was bollocks, like, Queen's English. And it was hilarious. I'd never heard my mum swear before, and that's the only time I've heard her swear. How beautiful that our parents don't swear, and yet our mums have both, the only swear word we've heard is bollocks. I love the fact that your mum thought bollocks is better than balls. It's excellent.
What I'm trying to get... So say again?
I agree, it's not. Bollocks is worse than balls.
But what I'm trying to get my head around is, why is your mother reading out the subtitles to your dad? Because the whole point of subtitles is that you can't understand, your hearing's not very good, so you're having to watch something. But then for her then to convert that back into sound, I don't understand how that all works.
Yeah. No, you're right. She's it's because my dad wasn't very well. I can't dress this up any other way than to say towards the end of his life, my dad wasn't very well. And it's quite a swift thing that they did, apart from when swearing came up on the screen. So the idea that people replace swear words with non-swear words is ridiculous. I've made a note of a few examples here. Ruddy. I remember reading the word ruddy in a Roald Dahl book when I was a kid, and it was like, it just means bloody, but you couldn't put that in a book. Shine a light. Shine a light? What's that all about? And I think my problem here is that the irritation or the anger or the frustration is still there, isn't it? And anger's not good. Anger's bad. I know it's an energy and whatnot, But on the face of it, anger's bad. So deal with the anger, deal with the emotion, learn to be a little bit more rounded, and forget about the fact that you've added a word on there, because that kind of takes away the fact that you got angry about something if you swore about it. Americans say "geez." What's that about, Phil? Can you enlighten me? Geez.
I can't.
It's like, I remember that appearing in like sitcoms in the 80s over in the UK, and it was like, what are they saying? You know, it's on at 5 o'clock on the BBC. It can't be Jesus, because that wouldn't be allowed. They're saying "geez" instead. So, I don't know. I've never understood "geez." I was hoping you might be able to explain "geez" to me, but you can't, which is a shame. So I think that I don't know. I just think that we get rid of swearing. It allows us to focus on the things that are really offensive, like new taboo words. And we're not going to say anything here because they're all wrong. But there's the N word and the P word and yada yada yada. There's all of these other words which are kind of rightly taboo, or are they? I don't know. I wouldn't use them because I think they're inflammatory. Take swearing out of the equation, and not only will it kind of irritate the far right evangelical Christians, which would be brilliant. Anything that irritates them is obviously good. It would allow us to focus on the words that are actually properly offensive and cut away all the noise and just get rid of them. What do you think?
Yeah, and maybe not just the words. I mean, let's get upset about things that are really worthwhile getting upset about. Now, says me, who gets upset about not being able to get a cup of tea made for me in a tea shop, in a coffee shop, right?
And direct penises.
That's right. We'll put that as one side. Let's get upset about really things that really matter instead of just getting upset about absolute nonsense. People get offended by such silly things, and you have to pussyfoot around them. I didn't upset people by using the word pussyfoot there. And yeah, it's just all nonsense. I mean, get a grip. Look at things that are happening in Afghanistan with women's rights being totally, I was going to use the word decimated, but I know you'd pull me up on that, Alistair.
I won't pull you up about it. Right.
Yeah, it's, their rights are all just being taken away. It's absolutely terrible. So let's get offended about that. Let's get upset about that and do something about that instead of getting upset about things. It's like that song, "Let Me Take You by the Hand and Drag You Through the Streets of London," right? It's, maybe it doesn't say the word drag, but it's the same concept. Stop getting upset about silly things. Stop being offended by silly things. Get offended by things that really matter and then do something about it. Let's actually do something about it instead of just whining about it. Says me, who's just said it. We should do something about Afghanistan. Am I going to do something about it? I don't know. What can I do?
You know, you're going to come on here, and you by being on here on Half Baked, you're going to be a catalyst for change, and that's enough. You've done your bit. Children and swearing, and this is a little bit of a challenge to me, I suppose, because I hear parents swearing in front of their children, and I immediately think chava, which is Geordie for chav, which is English for, I don't know, trailer trash, probably would be the American version of that, maybe. Why, if I want to, I'm challenging myself, if I want to assimilate swearing into the everyday vocabulary, I need to get over the fact that parents should be allowed to use words in front of their kids, swear words in front of their kids, not just, words sometimes as well. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to get beyond that. And maybe I'm saying get over yourselves, and people can't get over themselves in the way that I can't, get over the fact that parents shouldn't swear in front of kids. I need to challenge myself there and get over it.
That's interesting, Alistair. You've just jogged my memory that when my son was very young, I don't know, maybe 2 years old, whenever they start learning to talk, I noticed him once walking along, and he had carrying some toys, and he dropped the tray or whatever he was conveying the toys in, and he went, "Oh, book." And it was at that point that I realised that because he couldn't pronounce his F's, that I maybe should stop swearing around him.
Okay. He couldn't pronounce his F's?
Yeah. Oh, book.
Was he afflicted? Can he pronounce his F's as he learned the letter?
He was just very young, and he's just getting used to enunciating words. Anyway.
Okay, right, okay. It wasn't like he was. Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but kids swearing can be quite funny as well. I don't know. I would like to see a 2-year-old call you a twat. I feel that would be pretty funny. It might be quite funny if a child's first word was pissflaps rather than daddy. That might be quite funny. So yeah, again, I think that's an argument to say let's kind of mainstream these things and get over ourselves. But by mainstreaming swearing, do we take out the fact that it's funny? That's where I'm kind of coming up a bit of a counter argument here. I still remember Jimmy Nail in Our Feeder's Own Pet saying bollocks, and it was just like if he'd said rotten eggs, do you know what I mean? It just wouldn't have become as iconic as it had been. I remember when Beverly Hills Cop came out and the whole of the school realised that there was a brand new swear word, motherfucker, and it was just like fantastic, and you were dropping it in all the time. It was really, really funny, still quite funny. So I will end up arguing against myself if too much humour is got rid of, I think, by assimilating swear words. I don't know, any thoughts about that? Swearing is funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I think of a funny story. The accents from where I grew up can vary quite a lot with very short distances. And my brother got married to a woman from 10 miles north, and my mother, her brother, used to live 10 miles east. And her brother would come on a Sunday to bring his clothes to get washed at our house. This was when I was a kid. And my brother just happened to be at the house on the Sunday with his new wife. And his new wife sat stock still, didn't move throughout the whole of lunch that we had on this Sunday. And afterwards, I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Oh, I didn't want to move in case your uncle spoke to me because I couldn't understand a word he was saying, apart from bloody, bugger, and bastard. They were the only words she could determine." Anyway, it's slightly gone off on a topic.
I've got an image of the old guy in Father Ted sitting in the corner saying "feck" all the time, but like nothing else really. Brilliant. We need to pull this to some sort of hazy conclusion. My argument here is that we stop being offended by swearing. We use that bandwidth, that energy, to be offended by stuff which is actually offensive, that kind of marginalizes people who are the thing. Do you know what I mean? The N word or the B word or the F word, all that sort of stuff. And we kind of just get over ourselves and all grow up a little bit by realizing that, replacing the word for a sexual organ by a swear word, let's world, just grow up, get a grip. I'm feeling strongly about this. I appreciate that we might do away with some funny stuff because swearing can be funny, but there's always funny stuff around, isn't there? We'll find new ways of being funny. So I'm feeling, unless you can hit me with any profound and profane argument, Phil, I'm ready to fully bake this.
I totally agree. Let's get offended by things that actually really matter. That's it.
Excellent. Great. Good to see you again, Phil. Great to fully bake an idea. I will see you next week. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Our numbers are going up and up and up and up. So please, please, please continue to subscribe and share and comment and swear as much as you want. We will not be flipping well offended. Thank you. See you all next week.
Thanks, Alistair. Bye.